Keep your useless kid off my boat. Nobody wants her ruining the day, my brother snapped, taking every other grandchild onto the $18,000 private yacht I had paid for. My mother added, she ruins every family memory. I just smiled and said, noted. When the captain walked back holding the booking paper, I stood up and announced. The marina smelled like diesel and salt and sunscreen, and my daughter was holding a yellow disposable camera I had bought her at the gas station on the way. She had been pressing the shutter button against the sky since we parked, wasting film on clouds, and I had not stopped her, because she was smiling. Rodney's 3 kids were already at the dock, running along the pier in matching swim shirts someone had ordered in bulk. My mother stood near the gangway with a cooler she had not packed, wearing sunglasses that made it impossible to tell where she was looking. The yacht was tied to the last slip on the east side, white hull with a blue stripe. I knew the exact color because I had chosen it from the charter company's website 3 months ago when I booked it. $18,000 on my visa, my name on the confirmation, my signature on the liability waiver. Javier carried our bag down the ramp. Ren walked beside me, camera up, clicking at a pelican on a post. She was 7 and she noticed things other kids ran past. She would crouch to watch a beetle cross a sidewalk. She would sit at a restaurant and draw the pattern on the napkin. She did not perform for rooms, she watched them. My family had been calling that a problem for 3 years. Rodney saw us from the gangway. He had his hand on the rail and his oldest son on his shoulders, and he looked at Ren like she was a scheduling conflict. Harper, no, I stopped walking. Keep your useless kid off my boat. Nobody wants to spend 6 hours watching her sit in a corner and not talk to anyone. Every trip she is on turns into a babysitting job for the rest of us. My kids want to have fun. They do not want to tiptoe around your little project. Find a sitter next time, or better yet, stay home. Nobody will notice. He said it at full volume. The dock was not empty. 2 families from the adjacent slip were loading a cooler onto a smaller boat. A deckhand was coiling rope 10 feet away. Rodney's wife Tessa was standing behind him with their youngest on her hip, and her mouth opened slightly, but she did not speak. My mother moved her sunglasses to the top of her head. She looked at Rodney, then at me, and she did not step between us. She stepped beside him. She ruins every family memory, Harper, 3 years of vacation photos where someone is managing her instead of enjoying themselves. Rodney is right. Some children are not built for group activities. You know that. You just will not admit it because you think it means something about you. That was my mother, 62 years old. Standing on a dock I had paid for, backing up my brother's decision to ban my daughter from a boat I had booked and making it sound like motherly wisdom. She had rehearsed that line. The cadence was too even. 3 years of vacation photos was a data point she had filed away and waited to use. Ren lowered the camera. She did not cry. She looked at me, then at the yacht, then back at me. She was waiting to see what I would do with what had just been said about her in front of strangers. Javier's hand closed into a fist at his side. I put my palm flat against his forearm. I looked at my brother standing on a gangway I had paid for, blocking my daughter from a boat I had booked, calling her useless in front of people who would remember this for years. My mother had not corrected him, she had reinforced him. Noted, 1 word. Rodney heard surrender. My mother heard compliance. Javier heard the tone. He knew what noted sounded like when I said it at the shop after a vendor tried to short me on a delivery. It was not acceptance. It was the last entry in a ledger I had been keeping without knowing it. I sat down on the dock bench. Ren sat beside me. She lifted the camera and took a picture of a seagull standing on a pylon. Then she took a picture of a rope coiled on a cleat. Then she took a picture of the water. She had already used 12 exposures before we arrived. She was up to 15 now. She was not upset. She was doing what she always did, watching, recording, being exactly who she was. Rodney turned back to the gangway and clapped his hands. "All right, everybody on. Let's go." His kids ran up the ramp. My mother followed with the cooler. Tessa hesitated. She looked at me on the bench, and for a second her face carried something that might have been shame. Then she walked up the gangway without a word. 2 minutes later, the captain came down the dock holding a clipboard. He was looking for the booking party. He checked the slip number, looked at the group arranging themselves on the yacht deck, then looked at me sitting on the bench with a child and a disposable camera. "Are you Harper Caldwell?" "I am. I have your booking confirmation right here. Credit card ending in 44 way out. Do you want me to begin the pre-departure briefing?" Rodney leaned over the rail. "We are all set up here, Captain. Let's get moving." The captain looked at the clipboard, then at me. "Ma'am, the charter is under your name and your card. I need your authorization to depart." I stood up. This yacht was booked under Harper Caldwell. I paid $18,000 for it. My credit card. My name on every form you are holding. "Captain, I am canceling the charter. Nobody is getting on this boat today." The dock went quiet. Not the dramatic kind of quiet where everyone gasps. The real kind where the deckhand stops mid-coil and the family on the next boat pretends they are not listening, but their hands stop moving. Rodney's oldest son stopped climbing the ladder to the upper deck. Tessa turned around on the rear bench with the baby still on her hip. My mother set the cooler down on the deck so hard it echoed off the hull. Rodney gripped the rail. "You are kidding me. Harper, you are ruining this for everyone. I am ruining it? You could not ruin it, Rodney. You did not pay for it." The captain looked between us. I handed him my ID. He checked it against the booking, nodded, and told me he would process the cancellation at the charter office. There would be a fee. I told him I understood. Tessa came down the gangway holding the baby. Her sandals clapped against the aluminum. She stopped at the bottom and looked at the clipboard the captain was carrying. "Rodney, you told me you booked this." Rodney's jaw tightened. He looked at the water. He did not answer her. My mother climbed down from the yacht carrying the cooler by one handle, dragging it against the gangway rail. She set it down on the dock and pointed her finger at my chest from 2 feet away. "Your father would never have done this to his family. My father would never have called his granddaughter useless." She pulled her hand back like the air between us had become solid. She did not have a response to that. She picked up her purse from the dock bench where she had left it and walked toward the parking lot without looking at any of us again. Rodney was still on the yacht. His oldest had come back down the ladder and was standing at the rail next to him. "Dad, are we still going?" "No, we are not going. Get your brother." "But you said we were going on a boat today." "You said you set it all up." Rodney looked at me from the deck. I could see the tendons in his neck. His son was 10 years old and repeating the lie back to him in real time, and there was nothing he could do with it. He gathered the kids, carried the youngest, held the middle one's hand, and walked down the gangway without making eye contact with the deckhand or the family on the next slip, who had stopped pretending not to watch. I took Wren's hand. She was holding the camera in her other hand, pressed against her chest. "Let's go, baby." We walked back up the dock. Javier picked up our bag and fell in beside us. Wren took one more picture as we reached the parking lot. I did not see what she pointed the camera at. I was unlocking the car. If you are enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to Betrayal Unfolded and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. I did not sleep that night. Javier was out by 11. Wren had gone to bed at 8:30 with the yellow camera on her nightstand. I moved it to the kitchen counter around 10, sat at the table with my laptop, and opened my bank's website. I own a flower shop called Wren and Bloom. I named it after my daughter the year she was born. It is a small operation. Weddings, funerals, weekly arrangements for 2 restaurants downtown, and seasonal contract work for a landscaping company. I clear about $36,000 a year after expenses. It is not a lot of money, but it is mine, and I have been handing pieces of it to my family since my father died 6 years ago. Dad had a heart attack at 58. He was the one who held the family in place. After he died, I looked at my mother alone in that house, and my brother spending money faster than he earned it, and I decided the job of keeping things together had passed to me. I should have questioned that decision 3 years ago. I know that now. But grief makes you hold on to the people who hurt you because they are the last people who remember the person you lost. I opened the Venmo history first, 3 years of transfers to my mother, then the credit card statements, then the checking account. I made a spreadsheet, line by line, car insurance for Rodney's family, $2,600 a year. 3 years. $7,800 total. Rodney told our mother he could not afford the premium increase after his second child was born. Faye called me. "You are the one with steady income, Harper. He has 3 mouths to feed." I paid it. Every quarter. Direct to State Farm, policyholder Rodney Caldwell. Summer camp for Rodney's 2 older kids. $2,100 a year. 2 summers. $4,200. Faye said Rodney's kids deserved the same opportunities Ren had. Ren had never been to summer camp. She spent her summers at the shop with me, watering plants and drawing flowers on receipt paper while I filled orders. School supplies and new clothes for Rodney's kids at the start of each school year. Roughly $1,100 per year. 3 years. $3,400. Faye dropped off the lists at my shop in August like purchase orders, itemized, with sizes noted for each child. Property taxes for Faye's house. 1 year. $2,600. She told me the county had sent a second notice and she was short. I paid it online from my kitchen that afternoon. It took less than 5 minutes to transfer the money. I remember the time because Ren was eating a grilled cheese at the table next to me. The kitchen renovation. $12,000, 7 months before the dock. Faye called it a loan. She said the counters were cracking and the cabinet hinges had stripped out. She needed it done before the holidays. She promised to repay me by spring. Spring came. She did not mention it. I did not ask. I told myself she would bring it up when she was ready. And the yacht. $18,000. Booked 3 months in advance. I chose the boat. I chose the route. I put down the deposit and paid the balance in 2 installments. Rodney told his wife and his children and apparently everyone at the marina that he had arranged the trip. The total sat at the bottom of the spreadsheet like a number I had always known and refused to read. $48,000. 5 years. From a woman who runs a flower shop her family calls a hobby. Javier came into the kitchen around midnight. He saw the screen. He pulled out the chair beside me and sat down. He did not say anything for a while. Then, you knew it was a lot. I did not know it was $48,000. He put his hand on my back. "What do you want to do?" "I want them to sit across from me and read every receipt. All of them. At the same table." He nodded. I closed the laptop. The yellow camera sat on the counter where I had set it, 22 exposures used, 4 remaining. Ren had taken 22 pictures on a day the family told her she was not worth bringing along. Phoebe came over the next evening. She is my best friend, has been since sophomore year of high school. She was at the dock that morning as a family guest, standing near the parking lot when Rodney said what he said. She did not intervene because she saw my face and knew I was not breaking. She knew I was deciding. She came in through the back door, kicked off her shoes, and spotted the camera on the counter. She picked it up, turned it over, read the exposure counter on the back. She shot 22 pictures today? 22. Your daughter sat on a bench for 40 minutes after your brother called her useless in front of a dock full of strangers and took pictures of seagulls. She is not the problem, Harper. She was never the problem. She set the camera down carefully, like it was holding something more than film. That was all she needed to say. She did not tell me what to do. She did not ask what my plan was. She sat with me for another hour and we drank tea and talked about her sister's wedding venue options and whether the shop could handle the centerpieces for 140 guests. Normal things. Present tense things. The camera sat between our mugs the entire time and neither of us touched it again. After Phoebe left, I sat in the kitchen alone and stared at the spreadsheet on my laptop. The math was done. The total was final, but the thing I kept circling was not the money. It was the architecture of the arrangement. Rodney earned $71,000 a year at a regional trucking logistics company. More than I made. He had employer-matched retirement contributions. He had health insurance through work. He was not struggling. He was spending without structure, and my mother was converting his spending problem into my obligation. The system had 3 parts. Rodney generated the emergency, Faye translated it into guilt, and I wrote the check. It ran for 5 years without a single person examining it, because examining it would require admitting what it was. And I let it run because my father died, and I told myself that keeping this family together was the job he left me. I thought the payments were stitches holding something together. They were not stitches. They were rent. I was paying for the right to be called family, and the price went up every year, and the people collecting it thought the price was reasonable because they had never done the math. There was a smaller moment, 2 years before the doc, that I should have recognized as a warning. Ren's 5th birthday party. I held it at the shop. Tiny tables, flower crowns, a cake shaped like a sunflower. 8 kids from her preschool came. Rodney brought his kids and stood in the back by the cooler and said, "Loud enough for 3 mothers to hear? You spent money on this?" She would have been fine with a box of crayons and a corner. Faye laughed, not a corrective laugh, an agreeing one. I cleaned up the shop alone that night after everyone left, and I found one of Ren's flower crowns under a table. Crushed flat. I put it in the trash and told myself he did not mean it the way it sounded. He meant it exactly the way it sounded. I just was not ready to hear it yet. I almost grabbed the phone that night and called my mother and read her every line from the spreadsheet. I had the screen open, the call half dialed. Then I looked at the booking confirmation still sitting in my purse. My name printed across the top, and I put the phone down. They needed to hear this in a room, not over a speaker. They needed to sit across from me and read the receipts with their own eyes. On day 4, I called Faye to tell her I had compiled the full accounting. She did not want to hear numbers. "You are blowing things out of proportion, Harper. Rodney is upset. The kids are heartbroken. The whole family is talking about how you canceled the summer trip. Do you know what that looks like?" $48,000, Mom. This is not about money. You are right. It is not. But the money is the part you cannot argue with. She hung up. 5 days later, she called again. Not to apologize, not to ask about Ren, to tell me the yacht company had charged a cancellation fee, and she wanted to know if I would cover it. I almost forgave her. My thumb was on the callback button, and my chest was tightening the way it does when you want your mother to be someone she has never been. Then I replayed what she had actually said. She had not mentioned Ren. She had not taken back a single word from the doc. She was looking for the next check. I put the phone down and did not pick it up again. On day 6, Phoebe called. "Harper, did you know Rodney is on your mom's house deed now? Tessa mentioned it at book club last month. She said Faye added him as co-owner. Silence, Harper? When?" "Tessa said about 4 months ago. She thought you already knew. I did not know." That night, after Ren was asleep, I opened the county assessor's website. Public records. Free access. I typed in Faye's address and pulled the property record. The deed had been updated 4 months ago. Faye Caldwell and Rodney Caldwell, joint tenants with right of survivorship. My brother's name was on my mother's house. I stared at the timeline. 7 months ago, I paid $12,000 for the kitchen renovation. 5 months ago, the house was reappraised. The assessor's record showed the new value was approximately $62,000 higher than the previous assessment. 4 months ago, after the appraisal came back, Faye added Rodney to the deed. My money funded the renovation. The renovation increased the appraised value. My mother gave the increased value to Rodney. She turned my payment into equity and handed my brother co-ownership of a house I had made more valuable. And then I saw it. 3 years of Faye calling Ren difficult at family dinners. 3 years of telling relatives that Harper overreacts and makes everything about her. 3 years of Faye pulling Rodney aside after holidays and shaking her head about your sister. Every comment, every aside, every public correction of Ren at a birthday party or cookout was not random. It was construction. Faye had been building a family narrative brick by brick so that when she gave everything to Rodney, nobody in the family would raise a question. The difficult daughter with the difficult child does not get the house. The reliable son with the 3 loud, social, easy grandchildren gets the house. My mother was not losing her temper at the dock. She was maintaining a story she had been writing for 3 years. She was not an enabler. She was the architect. Rodney was the tool. The dock was not a bad day. It was a data point in a campaign. If this story is hitting home, go ahead and subscribe to Betrayal Unfolded. Every story on this channel is about the moment someone stops pretending. Day 8. I called an attorney, not a family friend. A civil litigation attorney Phoebe's husband had used for a contract dispute the year before. I showed her the bank records, the Venmo transfers, the renovation receipts, and the property record. She drafted a demand letter to Faye for repayment of the kitchen renovation, characterized as a personal loan with an implied repayment agreement based on Faye's verbal promise. It was not a lawsuit. It was a formal letter on letterhead with a case reference number and a 30-day response deadline. I mailed it certified. Return receipt requested. Day 9. Faye called. Her voice was clipped and tight, the voice she used when she wanted the conversation to be over before it started. You hired a lawyer over kitchen cabinets. You are turning this family into a courtroom. The cabinets were $12,000. The deed change was free. You got both. I gave Rodney the deed because he is here. Harper, he comes by. He brings the kids. He checks on me. You run your little shop and show up when it is convenient. I showed up every time you called with a bill you could not pay. That is not convenient. That is a payment schedule. I cannot believe you would do this to your own mother. You stood on a dock and agreed with a man who called your granddaughter useless in front of the whole family. I can believe everything you have done to me. That is the difference between us. She hung up. Day 11. I ran into Tessa at the grocery store. She was in the produce section with her youngest in the cart. Picking through a pile of nectarines, she saw me and put the fruit down. Harper, I want you to know Rodney feels terrible about the dock. Does he? He said it was a misunderstanding. He said you overreacted and the whole thing got blown out of proportion. I almost softened the demand letter that afternoon. I almost called the attorney and asked her to hold it, to give things another week, to let the temperature come down. Then I heard what Tessa had actually told me. Rodney was still lying, not about one thing, about the shape of everything. He was standing in his house telling his wife I had overreacted about an $18,000 boat he never paid a cent for. There was nothing to soften. Day 12. I drove to Faye's house. Javier came with me. Faye was in the dining room. Rodney sat at the table with his arms crossed and his jaw set, radiating the energy of a man who believed he was about to receive an apology. Tessa was beside him with her hands folded in her lap. Faye's brother, my Uncle Garrett, stood in the doorway between the living room and the dining room. He had driven down from Richmond because Faye called him and said I was being vindictive. He was a witness she had invited to watch me back down. Rodney spoke first. Glad you came. We should talk about what happened at the boat. We should. I sat down across from him. Javier stood behind my chair with his arms at his sides. I set a manila folder on the table and opened it. The first page was the yacht booking confirmation, $18,000, Harper Caldwell, visa ending in 4418. Tessa, who told you Rodney booked this trip? Tessa looked at Rodney. He shifted in his chair. I turned the page. Car insurance premium statements, $2,600 a year, 3 years, $7,800. Each payment from my checking account to State Farm. These are the insurance payments for your car, Rodney, your policy. My bank account, 3 years. Another page, summer camp invoices, $2,100 a year, 2 summers, $4,200. Another page, school supply receipts, $3,400 across 3 years. Property tax confirmation, $2,600, 1 year. Kitchen renovation invoice, $12,000, paid in full by Harper Caldwell. I set each page flat on the table, one at a time. I let the number on each receipt sit in the air before placing the next one down. Tessa reached forward and picked up the insurance statement. She read it. Her face did not change expression. It emptied. She set it down without looking at Rodney. Rodney, you told your wife you booked the yacht. You told your kids it was your trip. You told this family you arranged the summer camp, the school clothes, the vacation. None of it was you. I paid $18,000 for the yacht. I paid $4,200 for summer camp, 2 years running. I paid $2,600 a year for your car insurance for 3 years. I paid $12,000 for Mom's kitchen renovation, which she called a loan and never repaid. I paid her property taxes the year she said she could not afford them. $48,000 in 5 years, from the woman who runs a flower shop you call a hobby. I turned to Faye. And Mom, you took my $12,000, renovated your kitchen, used the higher appraisal to justify putting Rodney on the deed, and then you stood at a dock and told my daughter she ruins every family memory. You did not just exclude Ren. You have been building a case against my daughter and against me for 3 years, so that no one in this family would question it when Rodney got everything. That stops today. Uncle Garrett took a step back from the doorway, not leaving the room, just putting distance between himself and the table, the way a person steps back from a ledge when the height registers. Rodney leaned forward. This is about a boat, Harper. You are making this into something it is not. This has not been about a boat since I was 29 years old. Faye's coffee cup tilted in her hand. The liquid slid toward the rim. She set it down too hard, and it spilled across the placemat in a brown fan. Her left hand moved to her collarbone and stayed there, fingers spread, pressing into her own skin. Her mouth opened. Closed, opened, nothing came out. She looked at Rodney for backup. Rodney was staring at the table. Faye was alone with the receipts for the first time in 5 years. Rodney's chair scraped back 3 inches, not standing, not walking out, creating distance between his body and the folder, as if the pages carried a physical weight he could feel from across the table. Your father would be ashamed of you right now, Faye said. Her voice cracked on the word ashamed. Dad would have noticed the receipts. She flinched. It landed because it was true. My father read bank statements at the kitchen table every Sunday morning. He would have seen the transfers in the first quarter. Rodney tried a different angle. His voice shifted from defensive to generous, the way a man sounds when he thinks he can buy his way out of a corner with tone alone. You want a thank you? Fine, thank you, Harper. Thank you for helping the family. Is that what you needed to hear? I did not do this for a thank you, Rodney. I did this because for 5 years I thought I was keeping this family together, and what I was actually doing was funding a man who calls my daughter useless, and a mother who took my renovation money, increased her home value, and put your name on the deed. Those are not the same thing. And a thank you 5 years late, delivered at a table full of receipts, is not gratitude. It is negotiation. Tessa picked up the summer camp invoice and read the date. She set it down. She picked up the property tax confirmation. She read the amount. She set it down. Her hand was steady, but her breathing had changed, shorter and sharper. The kind of breathing a person does when they are reading something that rewrites the last 3 years of their life. "Rodney," Tessa said. She did not raise her voice. She lowered it. "I asked you last year why our account never showed the camp charges. You told me Harper volunteered to pay because she wanted to. You said it was a gift." Rodney opened his mouth. Nothing came. "Was any of it you?" He did not answer. Tessa put the insurance statement face down on the table. She reached for her purse. I looked at Rodney, then at Faye, then at Uncle Garrett, still standing in the doorway with his arms at his sides. "You called my daughter useless on a boat my money paid for. $48,000 of useless. Rodney, every cent from me." Faye turned to Garrett. "Say something. Tell her she is being unreasonable." Garrett looked at Faye, then at the folder, then at the receipts Tessa had been reading. He put his hands in his pockets. "I am not getting in the middle of this, Faye. You drove 2 hours to be here." "I drove 2 hours because you told me Harper was being vindictive. You did not tell me she had been paying Rodney's car insurance for 3 years. He took his hands out of his pockets and crossed his arms. "I am not saying another word." Rodney stood up halfway, palms on the table. "Harper, come on. We are family. Families help each other. You helped and we appreciate it. Can we move past this? You did not know you appreciated it until I laid the receipts on the table. That is not appreciation. That is an exit strategy." He sat back down. "I am done paying for this family. The car insurance lapses at the end of this month. The next property tax bill is your problem, Mom. There will be no family trip next summer. There will be no check from me for camp, for clothes, for renovations, for anything. My last dollar went to a dock where you called my daughter useless. The next one goes to her." I closed the folder. Javier picked up his keys from the counter behind me. I pushed my chair back and stood. Tessa walked to the front door and waited there with her hand on the knob, staring at the wall. She did not look at Rodney. Uncle Garrett picked up his mug, carried it to the kitchen sink, rinsed it under the tap, and set it on the drying rack. He put on his jacket and left through the back door without saying goodbye. Rodney sat in his chair, both hands flat on the table, eyes on the open folder. Faye had not moved. The coffee was pooling at the edge of the placemat, dripping onto the granite counter my money had paid for. We drove home. Wren was at Phoebe's house. I picked her up, buckled her into the back seat, and drove through town with the windows cracked. She asked if we could stop for ice cream. We stopped. She got strawberry with sprinkles and sat on the bench outside the shop swinging her legs. I sat next to her and watched her eat. A drop of pink ice cream fell onto her sandal, and she wiped it off with her thumb and kept going. She pointed at a dog tied to a bike rack across the street and said, "That dog looks worried." She was 7 years old, and she read the body language of animals on the street, and she noticed when a stranger's pet looked anxious, and my family looked at this child and saw a burden. Faye did not call for 3 days. On day 17, Tessa sat down across from Rodney at their kitchen table. The kids were in bed. The house was quiet. She opened her laptop and pulled up their joint bank account. She was looking for the payments that should have been there. The insurance premiums, the summer camp deposits, the school supply charges, the property tax contribution. She scrolled backward through 6 months of transactions, then 9 months, then a full year. She found nothing, because there was nothing to find. Every dollar had flowed from my account to the insurance company, to the camp, to the school supply stores, to the county tax office. Rodney's bank account had never processed a single payment. He had not even been in the chain. He had stood at the front of it and taken credit for a financial life someone else was running. Tessa closed the laptop. "I need to call my mother." "Tessa, wait. Let me explain." "Explain what? Which part?" She picked up her phone and walked out of the kitchen. Rodney sat at the table with the laptop closed in front of him. He did not follow her. He did not have a version of events that would survive what she had just read. I almost called Tessa that week. I had her number. I could have told her everything directly, could have walked her through every receipt myself. But she was not my target, and she was not my enemy. She was a woman married to a man who had lied to her about where their family's stability came from. That discovery was hers to sit with. I did not need to deliver it. She was already reading the documents. On day 22, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Faye, her voice was shaking, higher than normal, breathless. She said she had been having chest pains since last night and needed someone to drive her to the doctor. She said she was scared. For about 4 seconds, I believed her. Then I called the doctor's office. I knew the practice because I had driven her there twice in the last 2 years. The receptionist checked the schedule. No appointment for Faye Caldwell that day. No appointment that week. I called Phoebe. Can you drive by my mom's house? She says she is having chest pains. If it is real, she needs help. But I am not going over there. Phoebe went. She pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later and found Faye sitting on the front porch, fully dressed, hair done, drinking coffee from her favorite mug, paging through a magazine. No distress, no shortness of breath, no sign of anything wrong except the performance she had already abandoned because the audience she wanted had not arrived. Faye looked up. Is Harper coming? Phoebe called me from the car. I listened, exhaled through my nose, and sent Faye one text message. If it is real next time, call 911. That is what they are for. Do not call me. Faye, read it. She did not reply. On day 28, Rodney's car insurance lapsed. I had been paying the premium directly to State Farm, and when the quarter ended, no payment came. State Farm sent a cancellation notice to the policy address. Rodney ignored it. When the grace period expired, his auto lender, which required continuous comprehensive coverage as a loan condition, sent him a letter, provide proof of active insurance within 14 days, or the lender would add force-placed coverage at nearly 3 times the standard premium. Rodney sat in his truck in the driveway with the lender's letter unfolded on the dashboard, the engine off, the windows up. Tessa told me this part later, through Phoebe, through the same chain that carried everything. She said she watched him from the kitchen window for 20 minutes. He opened the calculator on his phone and started entering numbers he had never tracked before. The standard premium was $2,600 a year, $650 per quarter. Force-placed coverage from the lender would cost close to $7,000 annually, billed directly to the loan balance. His monthly car payment would jump by nearly $400. He did not have the margin for that. He called me. I did not answer. He called Faye. Faye's checking account did not have $650 of flexibility. The house was worth more on paper than it had ever been, but paper equity does not cover a quarterly premium, and Faye had never needed to learn the difference because I had been covering it for 3 years. On day 33, Rodney was driving his oldest son home from baseball practice. The boy was 10, still in his uniform, dirt on his knees, batting glove hanging out of his back pocket. He was quiet for most of the drive. Then, stopped at a red light, he spoke from the back seat. "Dad, why can't we go to Aunt Harper's flower shop anymore?" Ren said she would show me how to make a bouquet for Mom's birthday. Rodney adjusted the rearview mirror. He could see his son's face, patient, open, waiting for an answer that made sense. "We will figure it out." "Ren is not useless, Dad. She knows every flower by name." Rodney did not answer. The light turned green. He pulled forward and reached for the volume knob on the stereo. The radio filled the car with a song neither of them was listening to. His son looked out the window, chin resting on his fist, watching the strip mall parking lot scroll past. He did not ask again. He did not need to. The question had been clean and specific and unanswerable, and the silence after it was the answer. On day 40, I took the yellow camera to the drugstore and dropped it off for processing. The prints came back the next afternoon in a paper envelope. I spread them on the counter at the shop after closing, one by one, in the order the lab had numbered them. 26 exposures. 26 prints. Clouds stacked in columns over the highway, a bird on a wire against a pale sky, the marina parking lot from ankle height, a pelican on a post, head turned, one eye visible, the pier from the bottom of the ramp, planks converging toward the water, a seagull standing on a pylon, feet orange against the gray wood, a rope coiled tight on a dock cleat. The water, flat and silver, catching the midday sun in a band across the center. More clouds, different shapes, taken from the bench after she sat down. A boat she did not know the name of passing in the channel. The edge of a sneaker, probably her own, against the dock boards. 25 pictures of a world my daughter saw, while the family told her she was not worth bringing along. The 26th photo was different. It was a picture of me, taken from the height of a 7-year-old sitting on a dock bench. I was standing, my mouth open mid-sentence, my left hand on the back of the bench behind me, my body angled toward the gangway. The captain was behind me, holding the clipboard. Rodney's silhouette was on the yacht rail above. The light was overexposed and the framing was crooked and the top of my head was cut off. Wren had taken a picture of the moment I stood up and canceled the charter. She was 7. She did not know what she was photographing. She pointed the camera at whatever she saw, and what she saw was her mother choosing her. I taped all 26 photos to the wall behind the counter at Wren & Bloom, in order. Clouds first. Me last. Faye sits in her kitchen now. The counters are clean because nobody comes for dinner anymore. The property tax bill sits in the mail stack by the front door, unopened. Rodney has not come by this week. The house is worth $62,000 more than it was before I wrote that check. The granite is polished. The cabinet hinges are smooth and silent. It is the most expensive room in a house that nobody visits. My shop is small. The register is old. The cooler hums too loud when it cycles on. Wren sits on the stool behind the counter on Thursday afternoons doing her homework, and when a customer walks in, she looks up and says, "Welcome to Wren & Bloom." Behind her, 26 photographs are taped to the wall in a crooked line that slopes slightly downward from left to right because I did not use a level. Clouds and birds and rope and water, and one picture of her mother standing on a dock, mouth open, choosing. They called her useless. She was holding a $34 camera, and she took 26 pictures. And every single one of them came out. If this story meant something to you, subscribe to Portrayal Unfolded. Every story on this channel is about the moment someone stops paying for people who never paid attention.